Yeah, your characters might be boring. Oh, right. Hey, hello, all that jazz. But seriously, if you are here, then maybe your characters could use a little, teeny tiny little bit of extra spicing up. Or a lot bit. And I know it's presumptuous of me to say so, but before you yell at me through the screen and type in the comments, Tiara, you're wrong, this video sucks and my characters are fine. Here's the thing. If you're curious enough to click on this video, I'm probably right, actually. Sorry. But that's okay, because once upon a time, my characters were boring too. I've actually spent the last 3 years obsessively diving into story structure, world building, and character creation. I have pages and pages and hours of notes on this type of a session, thanks to mostly Skillshare, and no, they aren't sponsoring this video. But I did it all to make sure that boring, flat, or unrealistic characters would never be a problem for me again, especially when pursuing a project that is very important to me. My proof is in the fact that I've been consistently posting my graphic novel, The Lost Land Sage, for over 7 months. And through putting those lessons to work, I've created a main character that is very loved by those who know her. So, in this video, I want to share some of that goodness with you by walking you through how I develop compelling characters, using a side character from my own series that you haven't even met officially yet, Pip. BT dubs, if you want to read The Lost Land Sage, it's up on Webtoons and Comic Fury, which are both linked in the description, but I'll tell you more about it later, so for now, maybe stick around. I'm going to share all of the juicy character building details right now. Also, please excuse my energy and delivery. I am not feeling well today. I believe that what I call the dichotomy of man is the essential first building block when it comes to creating a character. This section of character building is all about balancing a character's realism with their fantastical elements. And that just helps the character feel real enough that people can connect to them, but compelling enough that it is a character that someone can latch on to. So relatable and compelling. So since in this video we're going to be using my side character Pip as the crux of how we're going to be developing his character, we're going to start with Pip's dichotomy. So the grounded part of Pip is his job. He is a delivery man, which I'm still thinking of an overall name for this job, because if I don't think of something before Pip is introduced, it's probably going to stay delivery man for henceforth. But within his job, Pip has certain duties, responsibilities, a certain work ethic, and sometimes a certain drive to get things done as best as possible. Well, hopefully all the time. But that is something I feel like most working people can relate to, especially working people who take pride in what they're doing. And then to reach the other side, the fantastical side of Pip, he is actually a spy. Yes, I have finally revealed it. Pip is a spy, so he has his secrets, which I feel isn't at all realistic to everyday life, both in our Earth everyday life and in Tourmaline. It's not typical. They're post-war. Everyone believes it's a time of tentative peace. There really is a need for spies, is what the general populace thinks. And yet here we are. And I think someone being a spy, because it's not something we run into every day, at least we don't know if we do, it's different. It's fantastical, hopefully, with this groundedness in the duty of work and the fantastical of the thrill of being a spy. That gives Pip a great dichotomy, a great foundation that we can build on from there. What you should take away from this section is basically ground your characters into something that is believable. and then give them a twist, either a fantasy or just any kind of not common twist that makes that character feel special or aspirational or something of that kind. To define pop, it is what makes your character stand out right away. Someone's pop can be their skills, a weird or tragic backstory, an unexpected combination of traits, etc., what have you. And to really identify what a character's pop can be, you could just ask yourself, from a reader's point of view, why should they care? Going back to Pip, his pop, it could be surface level that he's a spy, but that's too easy. I think he's got something else that really can make him memorable. I'll share it with you right now, actually. The reality is that Pip, full name Finley Piper, is named after his now deceased older brother. It's actually a really sad story. His parents were so grieved after his older brother passed that they had Pip and gave him his brother's same exact name in a weird way to quote-unquote try again, which is part of the reason that Pip goes by Pip, because who would? He doesn't want to answer to the ghost of a brother he's never even met, always trying to live up to someone he doesn't know, but his parents never got over. So yeah, the pop, I feel, doesn't always have to be fun and exciting. It could just be an integral part of the character that is memorable. So, takeaway, mix the traits that people would expect with something that they don't expect. Pip has a fun and cool and not typical name unless you're in, Great Expectations. But the reason why he has this name is a little tragic. Personally, I think to even think of this kind of backstory for Pip, I have to be a tad bit morbid. But I do like it, and so it's going to stay. To define flaw, it would be the internal limitations or false beliefs that create emotional tension. So if the pop puts the Mary Sue, the flaw brings them back down to earth. I think it's really important to have the flaw, especially after realizing a character's pop, because I don't think anyone really relates to a character that is perfect. There is no arc there, which we'll get into in a later part, but there's no arc, there's no development, there's nothing to cheer on because they're already perfect. So, for Pip's flaw, I think it's that he is deceiving people, and he's good at it. He's good at it, unfortunately. One person in particular that he is deceiving is someone that he has growing feelings for, so that makes it even more morally ambiguous, because he's essentially lying to everyone. Deception is essentially a form of lying. He's lying about who he is, he's lying about what he can really do, which that's one secret I will leave a secret. And it's why I said in the previous video that when Pip is initially introduced, I don't know if readers will really see him as a good guy, which breaks my heart because I think Pip is the greatest guy, bias standing. But as you get to know him and get to know that his secrets might not even be for the good of the territories, which, in fact, I do know is to the exact detriment of the territories, it's really, really hard to root for him. When you notice him diverting attention away from himself and knowing it's because he is deceitful, I think people are going to have a hard time really cheering him on. But I will say he's not deceptive for personal gain. I think it's because he truly believes it's for the greater good of everyone, hopefully. I just do know that there's definitely potential for emotional tension there, both internally and externally, when it comes to Pip interacting with the main character, Wisteria, or the No BS Autumn, or anyone else, even internal monologue. Like I said, a flaw goes hand in hand with the pop, because no one likes a Mary Sue, and personally, I don't like those flat, romantic-y, yes, go queen, love interests. So give him a flaw, because no flaw means no tension and no reason for anyone other than you to care. Okay, hello. I want to take a break in the middle of this video to tell you guys about today's sponsor, me. Yes. I want to tell you guys about my Ko-Fi. I leave it linked in the description of all my videos, but basically on Ko-Fi, I post free updates, blog posts, diving deeper into the behind the scenes of the Lost Land Sage. I also have paid memberships from $1 up until $20, where you can get Discord access, your name at the end of these videos, voting on these videos and what topics I'll cover. You get a monthly digital download, and you get early page releases, along with a few other things I'm sure I'm forgetting. But if that sounds good to you, then be sure to check out the Ko-Fi. Otherwise, I hope you're enjoying this video so far, and stick around until the end. Grab your blanket, grab a tea, grab a coffee, grab a water, stay hydrated, and let's keep going. Okay, to define drive, it is both what the character wants on the surface level, what you can pick up very easily that the character is working towards, versus what a character actually needs, which is a deep down revelation that you can only understand after really getting into the character's head, their actions, and what they're portraying within the story. So for Pip, I believe that his want is that he just wants to be well informed. He wants to be respected, and he also wants to be recognized for his diligence, his loyalty to the cause that he represents, which makes a lot of sense. He takes pride in his job. He takes pride in who he is as a person. He has a sort of soldier's kind of pride. I think Pip's needs vastly contrast his want. And I'll tell you his need right now. You can make that determination for yourself. But basically, Pip's needs are that he needs someone to see him as an entire but singular person. So not as a spy, not as a delivery man, not as a ghost of his brother, but just as Pip. And to care about him. Like really, really actually care. And maybe even love him. Because right now, he just feels very overwhelmingly lonely if he stops to think about it for just 1 second. Which, I don't know about you guys, not to get sad, but that's a feeling I've had before and can definitely relate to. It's very real, actually, the feeling of nobody actually knows who I am. Nobody actually knows the real me. And would they even care if they did? I doubt it. Thankfully, I don't feel that way anymore, and if you do feel that way now, I promise there's another side to it, but that's Pip's deal. Segueing from Pip back to my general tips for you guys, something I've picked up along the way is that any conflict between a want and a need for a character makes that character arc more juicy. Like I said, arc is coming up, don't worry, but that conflict does make the character arc juicy. With Pip's wants and his needs, there's a lot of chance, like I said, for tension between characters, with himself. It's just all around a nice, tasty meal. Vibe is a word that I think initially is hard to define, especially in this context. To help you out here, I would define vibe when it comes to character creation as the energy that a character gives off. So their quirks, whether they're intense or soft, just the vibe. For example, I'm going to bring up Gravity Falls again. Make a video without mentioning Gravity Falls. Challenge impossible for me, apparently. But in Gravity Falls, a character like Seuss, his vibe is completely different than a character like Mabel, or Dipper, or Grunkle Stan, or, well, I won't spoil even though it's an old show, but different vibes. Or my personal favorite, Bill Cipher, but neither here nor there. I'm getting off track. Pip. His vibe is very, and I thought about this for a while, but I don't have a better word, stoner. Maybe stoic might be a better word, but I don't think stoic's quite the right word. To give it more description, Pip is someone who keeps his feelings more close to his chest. He's very chill, but he's also very silly, very goofy. He's a goofy goober. But he's also relaxed and slow to confrontation because it's chill, dude. I also think, though, if you take the time to really look into his eyes, he's a character, but look into his character, you'd see that the wheels are always turning, and introspection is like one teeny tiny layer below the surface for him. So the takeaway I think you should have from this is to know how your character moves or talks or reacts to things in the world. In animation, I don't know what it's called, but it's essentially you give this character a ball or any kind of item that is relevant to the world. Give it to them, give the same one to each character, but see how this specific character would react with that item. That would tell you the character's vibe. Everything else so far, I would say, is what makes dialogue or story beats more interesting, more engaging for the reader. But I think for characters specifically, the vibe is what creates a fan of that character. It's what sticks with the reader. And I think that's why it's so important to cultivate. All right, you guys are patient. I brought it up a couple of times. We're finally here to the arc of a character. And I think character arc is what a lot of people initially think of when it comes to creating a character, but it's actually probably one of the last steps you should take. Because once you have who this character is, you know how to make their arc. If you make an arc before making a character, I feel like a character feels more like they were created as a puzzle piece to just fit things together just perfectly, instead of being complex in the way that a human is. Well, a human defined to sort of one arc is. Anyway, an arc is basically the starting point leading into the struggle, leading into the payoff of a character's story. For Pip's arc, I think he starts off as someone who is dutiful, doing his job, trying to find Amelie's replacement, getting information from the places he visits, and reporting back to who he reports back to, what he knows. I think Pip's struggle point, knowing what his needs and his wants and everything else that we've defined up until this point is his struggle will be a moral dilemma. Whether he will continue to serve whoever it is that I will not be telling that he is serving loyally, which is very important to him, no matter who he hurts or what happens along the way, or if he's going to choose the pursuit of his needs, of being seen and being loved and being known with Wisteria and the crew. And I think the payoff for that is something I will not be telling you guys. You silly little goose, you think I'm going to tell you? No! You have to read The Lost Land Sage every other Sunday at 11 a.m. EST to find out. But I will leave you with this. A character's arc should mirror whatever the story's heart is. There are a million concepts, ideas, and videos on theme. But I think a theme can definitely be taken from whatever a character's or multiple characters' arcs are. And if the arc is very satisfying, the ending of the story or their arc because the end of an arc doesn't always have to be the end of a story. The ending of their arc will land much, much harder and resonate much, much deeper with anyone who reads it. I'm having another premonition of what you're thinking. Why would I bother doing all of this work for a side character? Why wouldn't I just focus on my main character or even antagonist and leave it at that? I'm going to speak personally, then I'm going to speak generally, answering this question. So personally, the characters that I create aren't just set pieces for my main character to interact with and to move a story forward based on whatever greatness ensues from the main character. I didn't want to make characters that turn on when Wisteria comes into a room and then shut down whenever she leaves. I've said many times that I'm creating a world full of characters that can individually stand on their own. I'm creating characters where if the main character of the Lost Land Sage or any story taking place within this world were to shift to Autumn, Pip, Amelie, Rose, whoever, you would still grow attached to their lives and root for them as much as you do Wisteria. It's really important to me to create characters that matter. More generally speaking, it's important to make characters that leave an impact to any story. Someone who you can't just switch them out with any regular or random Joe Schmo and get the same delivery, feel, tension, everything. Those are puzzle piece characters, I call them. And that's not the goal. That's not the goal. People don't identify with those kind of characters because not everyone's going to identify with the main character. It might be a side character that is their favorite. And if you create a character that becomes someone's favorite, it leaves an impact when that character is gone. So in a world that would keep turning and events would play out even if the story didn't exist, which that's getting into more world building, and that might be another video, a separate video, or videos, really. It's a big subject, but comment if you want that. But in that kind of world, you have to create characters that matter. Anyway, I have given you the foundation to build on when it comes to creating any character to make your creative dream a reality. I hope it helps. I hope you do it and I hear about it and I cheer you on and participate in your goals. But for now, try it out. Let me know how it works. And read The Lost Land Sage. Oh yeah, I'm sticking that in there. I have the Comic Fury and Webtoon links in the description. I release The Lost Land Sage 2 new pages every other week. So next week, 2 new pages will be released. I will let you guys know that I also release on Webtoon every single week. The reason I release every week on Webtoon is because Webtoon is actually behind Comic Fury. So I let you know that because if you are solely a Webtoon reader, you will be behind. So beware of spoilers. All of those links are in the description, including the Kofi. And if you've gotten to this point of the video or anything in this video you learned from or resonated with, I'd love it if you liked and then subscribed, because then you'll see me again in 2 weeks when I post another full-length video. Also, liking and commenting, sharing, subscribing really helps me. I know, selfish, but it really helps me in the YouTube algorithm because it'll show very cool people that are like you, very cool videos like this. And I will be eternally grateful as my channel is growing. All I have left to say is to stay curious and suffer the consequences. I'll see you next time.